It's time to rock and roll! Okay, it's not just me, right? Like everyone opens up like a million tabs on their computer
Yeah,
and
it's
they
all
have
the
to.
time.
You're not
Okay.
alone.
Okay, good, because it's bad right now. I gotta clean this shit out. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back
Morning.
to another episode of the Waffle Press Movie Hangouts. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Gina Versa.
Hello, good to see you this morning.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Gene for getting tickets to a early secret Bleachers show. I am
Hmm
now a fan
Ooh.
of the Bleachers. I know they're not called the Bleachers, but
Yeah,
I like them
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Was not aware of their existence, and
Uh,
now I love them, and I listen to them all the time. So thank you, Gene, for that.
that's great. I'm happy to hear that unexpectedly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a fun night.
hmm
And we're joined by a very special guest today because this is going to be a very educational podcast. Lexi Van Dyke from filmtwitter.com, the
hmm
host of Schooled by Cinema. She's here to school us on cinema and catch us up on the last semester that I flunked out on. Lexi, how are you?
I am good. How are you? I'm so excited to chat with you guys and, not be too serious. Be a little fun, a little bit of a fun class.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
fun here.
exactly. Yeah.
I was on a
Uh-huh.
while back to talk about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing,
Mm-hmm.
hmm
which is an incredible movie. Um,
Yes.
and and I'm just I still feel like there's so much more to talk about with that one, but
hmm
a lot of people could
Yeah.
talk about that one too. I just want to thank you again for having me on for that.
Of
Um,
course. That
hmm
was a great episode. I really am enjoying going through this process. My second season was on screenwriting, and so I did a focus on screenwriters, and then we also did like a special episode on the Save the Cat book, which was really fun to talk
The,
about.
yeah, the screenwriter of Blank Check,
Uh-huh.
Snow Dogs, or no? Stop
I
or My Mom Will Shoot.
That
That's
for
the
that
my mom
one.
movie.
will shoot,
Yeah.
yes.
If you haven't seen that movie, that's a interesting one.
It is.
Yeah. Arnold tricked Stallone into making that movie.
I know that's just a wild case of like
hmm
90s screenwriting and
Yeah.
the getting the biggest paycheck ever between him
Ex-
and like Shane
yeah.
Black and the other ones.
hmm Then I think that screenwriter just coasted off of those two movies the rest of his life, and then he just did books.
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
wrote this book and then kind of lived off of that book and like doing seminars with that book and doing
hmm
screenwriting punch ups and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And then he died too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
most people do.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
Fortunately.
I'm very fascinated by that guy. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah.
No, not at all. He like his career, like I really enjoyed reading that book because it was very much like a getting an ins and outs of the quote unquote Hollywood business,
hmm
especially at the time. Like I feel like that book says a lot more about 90s cinema than a lot of other books that
hmm
write about that time because it so exists in this like kind of tunnel vision of what he was going through.
Mm.
And he may have done like a updated version, but I don't think that like they changed it at all for any other editions. So
Yeah, no, yeah, I think he did like a second edition or something.
yeah.
Like he added more about making Stopper My Mom Will Shoot or something.
And
Yeah.
he didn't talk about Blank Check like at all. It's so
No.
funny because he
Yeah.
doesn't discuss or really stop around, at least in the edition I read,
hmm
stop around or shoot at all. Like he doesn't discuss his movies, which I think is
Yeah.
so funny that he
hmm
discussed those. It was just breaking down all these
Other movies.
other movies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could break down both movies, but yeah, I don't know. I like Blank Check as a kid. Like that was fun. Like child's fantasy movie.
Oh
I
yeah,
read.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the weirdest part of that movie, if you go back and watch, is like the fact that like this 25-year-old woman is supposedly like digging on this 11-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what
Yeah.
is going on here? How did this
Total
happen?
total child fantasy movie, you know.
So I've not seen Blank Check, so
Oh
that
no.
Oh
just
my
threw me for a
gosh.
loop right now.
It's like a Disney Channel movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Disney Channel original movie. Like there was like Luck of the Irish or like Johnny
Well, I think this
Tsunami.
was actually like a movie. They like distributed it.
Oh, okay.
theaters.
Yeah.
It was like during the time they were doing like Richie Rich and
Mhm.
like I think they do like Angels in the Outfield or like in other
Yeah.
films like that.
Mhm.
Mighty Ducks, like
Mighty
those kinds of
Ducks, yeah.
movies. Yeah, exactly.
Emilio. Best of Us. Yeah. Yeah, those yeah, I don't know. Those were like I think those were like fairly good like Disney movies at the time. Like I
Yeah.
liked Angels in the Outfield, like they don't feel as like Disney-fied, I guess, as their movies now, They're
They
like
were a little bit more raw, like even
yeah.
the Sandlot and stuff, where
Hmm.
they kind of discuss being a kid in
Hmm.
a realistic way of
Yeah,
like towing the line, especially at that time when you're kind of a teenager, towing the line between like being a kid and like growing up a little bit.
exactly, yeah.
And I think is the Sandlot a Disney movie? I think it is.
No, it's like, well, it might be now because it's Fox. I believe it's
Yeah, okay,
Fox.
it's
Yeah, it
Fox.
is
Yeah, yeah.
technically love love the Sandlot. But yeah, no, that was like an interesting period in Disney. Like it reminds me of their movies during the 80s, which is just
Yeah.
funny because I just got this from the black it's
Oh,
Vincent from the Black Hole,
oh.
part of the 80s
You know,
Disney.
I
Mhm.
haven't seen that one. I think that's
Um
probably like the only one I haven't seen.
yeah, no, it's a good movie. I think
Huh?
like it has what's his name from Jackie Brown who passed away in
Robert
2020.
Robert
Forster.
Forster.
Robert Forster,
Yeah.
he's in it, and
Mhm.
he just kind of like adds like such dimension to the movie because they're like
Yeah.
around all these like weird characters, or they're trying to basically do Star Wars, but like
Yeah.
they don't really get like what appealed to kids about Star Wars. And there's like the trippiest if you like watch the movie all the way through, because it's like I think it has like a good soundtrack, like it has a fairly good story, but it's more like the visuals or just the fact it gets so dark. But the last like 10 minutes are just basically Disney's version of the was it the 2001
Hmm.
Starbridge or the Star Child sequence, where it's just like it gets trippy, and it's just like there's like visions of like heaven and hell in like a Disney movie. So yeah, definitely check out the Black Hole before.
I will, because that
Yeah,
was like really when Disney was kind of in a in a
right.
black hole, I guess
Yeah,
I could
yeah, no,
say, of
right.
its
Yeah.
own. It was like very much in the weeds at that time until The Little Mermaid came along. Which I mean,
Yeah.
to touch base on what I'm going to be discussing
Hmm.
next, I'm doing animation next, which
Hmm.
I'm very
Ooh.
excited
Yeah.
about. So, because I love animation, I think it's like a fascinating subject. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because animation's we're big proponents for animation on this
Yeah.
podcast too. So like, yeah, I can't wait to see what you end up covering there.
Well, I guess I should say what the podcast is about. I don't know if I'd like
Yeah.
touch
Yeah.
base on
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
yet,
go ahead, go ahead, go
but
ahead.
I was realizing I was just like going off. But yeah, I kind of break down different parts of the filmmaking process. The first season, obviously, what I did with Diego and a few
Hmm.
other people. I did cinematography, and then last season was screenwriting, and now animation. Just kind of like to demystify and kind of re-educate ourselves on like what these parts of the film process are, because I think we get a little bit lost sometimes in what actually makes makes that part of a movie special, and what how that plays into the larger part of film.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important way to talk about film too, because I think so many people see it as like almost this untenable,
Yeah.
like maybe even quasi like religious thing. And
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
like
Hmm.
art in some cases can be like a religion
Yeah.
to people, but
Yeah,
they
Yeah.
see it
absolutely.
like as almost like too like it has to be too pure. Like how do I do that?
Yeah.
And it's like really at the end of the day, you're just putting stuff together with people around you.
And I think,
Like
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that there's like this very much a kind of where there's like this is auteur theory kind of idea,
Hmm.
and it's kind of come back into fashion as like we see like this deification of people like Christopher Nolan and all this. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that they're not great artists, but I think that they're just used to be a more like a work-a-day process, because it used to be just jobs that people sometimes would randomly fall into, and they would just be a part of the larger, and end up being like, oh, I like this, and then you just start going down this path, and then you end up being, whatever, Roger Deakins or whatever. And it's just like this used to be something that people would kind of take time to really build the skill in, and I think that that's something that's kind of gotten lost a little bit.
Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree with that. Like on every level, even, like
Yeah.
there's some discourse right now, even in the film criticism world, like Chris Stuckman, who has straight up said like he doesn't consider himself a film critic anymore
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
making movies now,
Yeah.
which I think is perfectly acceptable and fine. And
Yeah.
people seem to be very upset that he said that and then said, to me, a very normal thing where he was like,
Right.
I think we should talk about how movies like Madam Web get to become Madam Web, not so much blaming the people who worked on the
Right.
movie,
I
their
Yeah.
think
circumstances that led to
that's
this,
so
you know.
important because
Yeah.
there are so many steps in the filmmaking process. As I was like looking at screenwriting, like that
Mhm.
is such an evolution of a process. Like you could start off with the kernel of idea and flesh it out, and then it ends up going through like 3 or 4 of the people to the director who changes even more, and it's like not even anywhere near where you first started off with in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say the thing that was going around with the screenwriters from Madam Web, and they're like, look at all these bad movies that they did,
Yeah.
like Exodus, or they did some like
They
other
also did
one,
Morbius, and
Morbius.
it's like,
Morbius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like people are like, yeah, look at it's like, well, I think like, well, one, they're still more successful than most people, but like
Yeah.
also
mhm.
like two, like, yeah, it's like I don't think like it's just on them for like these movies. It's like Sony, and like
Absolutely
there's
not.
so many other factors than like these two screenwriters, like they did I Frankenstein, and it's just like, it's like who cares.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's people doing jobs to make a living,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we can like debate quality all the live long day,
Hmm.
but then you also, have to talk about how do you get
Hmm.
to that point, Why,
Yeah.
like maybe they have like a banger like out of nowhere and
Yeah,
you're like,
they
how did that
could.
Yeah.
happen? And then it
Yeah.
turns out if you read their stuff, it's like actually they're pretty good writers or even just like
Yeah.
baseline competent.
Yeah.
Something happens in the studio system where that it becomes very hard to pull off,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know?
they're
So
they're
that
living the dream.
yeah, hey dude, I'd fucking sell out to make a living like that.
Yeah.
I will
Morbius
write
2.
5
In a
Morbiuses.
world where it's harder and harder to make a living that way, you have to. I understand the idea of being like, why isn't what they're doing at a better quality if they're doing so much of it? But it's also like, you don't know what happens in between A and B to make it happen that way. And like,
Yeah.
maybe they just like, they work really well with everyone there in the system working with on like
Hmm.
in the business. Maybe people love working with them. That goes so much farther sometimes, especially when movies are guaranteed to at least make back their budget when it comes to these kinds of things. That goes so much farther than sometimes we realize.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
even on like apart from the screenwriting side, like I think of like Steve Yedlin,
Uh-huh.
Ryan Johnson's friend and cinematographer.
Yeah.
Like in between Looper and The Last Jedi, do you know what movie he shot?
No, what?
Mm.
San Andreas. And it's
Oh.
like, why did he do that? And it's like, well, because he's got to make a living.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
a
it.
hundred
Like,
Yeah.
percent.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Like he's not like some hack because of that, Like whatever about that movie. It's just like,
Right.
dude's got to pay bills. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all
I've
it
never
is. It's
seen it.
fine. You're good.
Yeah.
and
But
and what happens is that the idea is that the cream always comes to the top, like the positive, the things that we really enjoy watching end up being the ones that stand out. But you also need, like, not every movie is going to be 100% wonderful, fabulous all the time. Like that's just the way art goes,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to the insane process that these superhero movies have gone through in the last 10 years. It's like we were bound to hit this end point at some point, and Madam Web and all of these things just happened to fall at that point.
yeah, like it was bound to happen. You're totally right. Like it's all been building to this and something else will
Yeah.
come in the next couple years and
Yes,
then that'll be great and then that'll go through the same thing and
Yeah.
exactly.
that's just the end result of late stage
Yeah.
capitalism. So once we deal with that, stuff will get more interesting again. Um, we can go more into like what we think about the future of cinema in a second, but I'm
Okay.
curious, like Lexi, when you like how did you fall in love with movies? Was there like a moment, or is it one of those things where it's kind of always been there for you?
Um, I think it's so I kind of peeked at the story before, but the real reason is that I think I came up in the time when the VHS rental economy was like booming, and it was just a part of your life of going to the movie theater, going to the rental store and VHS rental, and like just picking something out and wandering and viewing and kind of curating off of the art and the back of and what it says in the back of the VHS. And so I think that played a lot into it. Just I am from a small town. There wasn't much else to do. It was right down the street from our house, and what else is there to do in the summertime except like rent a movie every day and watch it or more, you know? Also, I tend to love art a lot. It's kind of what I studied, and I remember just really loving the film classes the most. They were the ones that were it feels accessible, but it's also there's so many different types of it when it comes to movies about how you process it. Like it can be very simple, it can be something that makes you laugh, or it can make something that makes you feel even more, or it can just like be, you know, something like an animation where it's something you can actually see that, you know, very beautiful to watch. So I think that there's just a lot there to unpack. And I just love, I don't know, there's just so much there. Like how could you not enjoy it?
Yeah, like I very rarely, even nowadays, hear people be like, I don't like movies, you know? What I do hear is,
Mhm.
oh, I can't really sit down and watch a movie that
Mhm.
Yeah.
often, you know, like it's a
Yeah.
lot of focus. But they'll
Mhm.
maybe scroll on TikTok, and this isn't even against TikTok or anything like that, but they'll scroll for TikTok for hours, or they'll go on YouTube for
Yeah.
hours, or they'll throw something on Netflix for hours in the
Mhm.
background. And you know, like I don't even think that's inherently a problem, but I do think it's
Mhm.
like we did lose something when we phased out the physical media side of this, you know? Like
Yeah.
as of
Mhm.
this recording, like Best Buy is like done with physical media.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
I think we're about to bounce back in a way because I think collecting stuff is getting really popular.
Right.
Like
Is
even for
it
like
Yeah.
vinyl records and stuff like that. Like Gene, you collect vinyls, right?
no.
No, why don't I think you did? Who
No,
am
I
I
don't
thinking
know.
of?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I
Did
don't know.
I?
I know we have a lot of friends that do. Maybe that's it. I
Yeah,
just
no.
assumed. I'm
Yeah, no, it's
sorry.
all
I've
right.
been to your house like a bunch of times, and I just like, yeah, of course he does. Like I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Do
Um,
you know for Best Buy if it's like just physical media of just movies, or is it physical media of like any, like, I don't
I
know,
think
like
it's
CD?
pretty much everything. Like they are
Like,
not, yeah.
wow. What do you
Yeah.
buy at Best Buy? Like
That's I guess,
electronics.
yeah,
electronic?
electronics.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah.
just gonna all end up going the way, at least in Best Buy and stuff, is gonna end up going the way of the dodo, I think, because people just can get their stuff at Target or Walmart or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But there are a lot of really cool uh physical media, you know, companies
Mhm.
putting out really awesome stuff, and like that's really great. But it's just it can be expensive. That's the
Mhm.
only thing. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, I've noticed the last couple times I've gone to Goodwill that DVDs have gone up in price. So I think
Oh.
they're noticing more people
Uh-huh.
purchasing them. Like it's just $1, but I've noticed it. I'm like, oh, I wonder if they are getting more people coming in and like searching for stuff.
Mhm.
hmm
Probably. I would think
Yeah,
so.
I mean, even
Yeah.
VHSs, there's like a certain like nostalgia to that now, where people like love like, oh, like I have the VHS filter on this app, and like I'm gonna record my vlog like that or whatever, and it's like, hey, like whatever gets you interested, you know? Like I think that's cool,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I definitely try and track down VHS. I try and track down special ones that like I'm not going to find anywhere else, or like things that have a nostalgic uh you know, feeling for me. Because my grandma still has like her entire VHS collection, and I'm assuming that will probably go to me one day because no one else in my family cares. But yeah, so I think that there is, the only problem is that like when it comes to collecting this kind of stuff is like storage is always a issue when it comes to this kind of stuff. VHS is harder, but I know DVD, some people are doing the whole like putting stuff in a CD holder again. which I think is like such a great use of, you know, space if you want to hold on to physical media and you're okay throwing away the cases or whatever, or storing them somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that with like my games, and like I'm not really
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
gamer anymore.
Mhm.
Like I have a PlayStation 5 now, but
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that was just for Spider-Man. Um, but like yeah, that's such a great way of like monetizing your space, or maybe monetizing is the wrong
Yeah.
word, but like yeah, that's a great idea. I do love a good steel book, but those seem to
Yeah.
be like design wise, it's not really hitting for me. So again, I
Mhm.
have no like loyalty to keeping the boxes or anything like
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
even if you could just like store the boxes in a closet somewhere or in your garage where you can maybe
Yeah.
access it one day if you have a place, but like you want to have that in your living room so you're able to, you know, grab it and watch what you want.
hmm. And another question, what do you think drove you to start the podcast? Like, I mean, we kind of talked about it already, like, the
Yeah.
demystifying of it, but do you think that was like that kind of covers that base already, or do you think there's
Well,
like
I think
more to that?
it's just there of course a lot of discussion out there about film, but I just think that it comes down to a lot of people's interpretation, and I kind of like the idea of looking at what went into the process because I'm very much of a why person. Like, why did that happen? And I think a lot of this comes up when people are trying to figure out like, is that CGI or is that practical or is it a mix of it? I mean, I'm like such a noob when it comes to that stuff. Still, I'm still trying to decide what or figure out what makes what, because sometimes it's so seamless you don't even
Mhm.
realize. And I think that's part of the reason why, and especially like part of the reason I kicked off with cinematography is because that felt like something that would go under the bucket of like a director, which it could kind of, but it usually comes down to the cinematographer grasping onto what a director is trying to portray and then using their skills to capture that.
No,
It's
I
really
mean,
well
I
said. Yeah.
I think that's also a great point too, because like even a master like John Carpenter, like he's very vocal about demystifying everything. He's like, I don't
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, I did Halloween because I needed money, and it's like, yeah, congratulations, you made a masterpiece.
Mhm.
But
It's
like he,
great art can come out of commerce, and I think that
Yeah.
that's something that's kind of lost. I'm like, I
Mhm.
feel like there are a lot of suffering artists out there, but it's like you have to be able to do something correctly in order to get the funding for it. So I think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of where
and
it
it's
comes from.
like I think it also comes from like a place of like necessity, from like just having to like survive, because
Yeah.
we could
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about like, oh, I got
It,
this idea, we
mhm.
want to make this great thing, whatever, and it's like you could
Yeah.
talk about it forever, but like at some point you just have to do it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's
you're
Yeah,
like
like
it's a
absolutely.
nothing.
yeah. Yeah. It's a good motivator, I guess. Money.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. To survive.
Yeah, and again, someone like John Carpenter who's just like so half-assedly talking about his stuff. He's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I talked about the thing a lot already.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Right.
that's my best movie. It's like we all know it's my best movie and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he'll talk about like his cinematography. He's like, yeah, I kind of know where I want the camera to go. I kind of just need a cinematographer for lighting.
Hmm.
It's like that's real. I
Yeah.
don't know the light stuff or sound. I don't know sound. So I'll have someone
Yeah. You
else do
can't.
that. It's like
Yeah.
that's great. I love that.
Hmm.
I love hearing
You
that
literally can't do it
authenticity.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, it's
literally
true.
can't. Not enough space in your head to memorize like every single like lighting setup and thing to know, because yeah, I'd rather give it to a cinematographer to
Yeah,
deal with that
absolutely.
any day. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I guess a last question specifically pertaining to like the podcast is
Yeah.
like, you know, do you think education ever stops? Like, is there a point where you think like, all right, that's enough now, or do you think
Mm.
like maybe you can keep going?
As someone who like believes that education should never stop, I'm gonna have to say it never stops.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like, I mean, this comes to any point, any part of my life or anything. I just think once you stop learning, you start like you kind of stop living a little bit because you feel like you know everything, and you stop experiencing things in new ways because you're kind of hardened to that idea and you're unaccepting of it. Not to be like too deep, but that's just kind of
No, go for it.
No,
Great.
yeah. Please do, yeah.
I mean, at least for me, and I feel like, and also I feel like there's so many movies. There's so much to tackle. You can watch a new movie every day for the rest of your life and still not tackle like barely a third of what has been created. And I think as we're bringing up physical media and stuff, I feel like it's just very important to hold on to these pieces of artwork, and that's why I try and grab things that I think are like special or unique or whatever if I can, because like who knows what's going to happen to that down the line as stuff just goes straight to streaming and all these mergers are happening and who owns what. It's like we might not even be able to get anything anymore like in the next 10 years. Who knows what's going to be happening.
Yeah, where there's a lost media too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like at that point it's like, you know, piracy is a subject matter that people have a lot of feelings on. So I'm not going to say one way or the other whether it's good or bad. It is a thing that exists. We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But let's say hypothetically, if there was media that was created and no company or organization is going to work to upkeep it or keep it available to the public, and someone got a Blu-ray rip or even a DVD rip of it somewhere, in a way, is that not art preservation? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. So if you find any of that stuff online, I don't know. It's worth looking into.
Art preservation. It's like underground art preservation I feel, because it's like if the companies aren't going to have it available to you, what other options do you have?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that movie, The Monuments Men.
I haven't seen that one.
You're the first person to bring up Monuments Men in like a decade on planet Earth.
It came out a year, 10 years ago. But yeah, it's like
don't say that. That's so fucking awful.
It's like the you know, all the people during like art preservationists during World War II were trying to like get back all the paintings that the Nazis like took.
Is this George Clooney?
George Clooney, yeah. Yes. So it's like kind of like a dad movie sort of movie. That's all he makes now, except that niche. Yeah, except that really depressing movie he made for Netflix on the Arctic.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, he just makes dad movies, but Boys in the Boat, you know, I still haven't seen
Dads need movies too.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like that, you know.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Steal the art to preserve and keep away from like David Zaslav's of the world or Bob Iger's, you know.
The worst people ever.
Yeah, fuck those guys. Yeah, whatever. They're not gonna let us work for them. I could say that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like it's a strange time. I do think we're gonna reach this point where a lot of like genuinely independent stuff, and I don't mean stuff funded by A24. Nothing against A24, but that is, you know, that's a motion picture company.
They are like a major studio now at this point. They're not. I mean, they're independent in terms of funding, but they are like a major studio.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're gonna start seeing more stuff like the Skinamarink or the Terrifiers, or we're all going to the World's Fair. It's like people getting really experimental or aggressive in the terms of Terrifier 2, you know, like just trying to get stuff in people's face. Now, that's neither inherently good or bad. I just think it's something that's going to happen, and I'm very interested in seeing that because all those movies also went to theaters, you know. And with we're all going to the World's Fair didn't really make money, but it got enough for the director Jane Schoenbrunn to make what is apparently a very good movie at Sundance, and I'm very excited to see it.
I know, I'm excited to see it also.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, there's unfortunately it's like a lot of creating our own avenues outside of the Hollywood space, and we're gonna see what that looks like this decade. So I'm interested. I'm still stressed.
Yeah, people are saying that this is gonna be like a reemergence of almost like 70s type cinema again, which we're kind of seeing a little bit of. Like we still have, you know, A24 and Jason Blum doing their thing on their end, but you can also see these creators kind of taking it into their own hands, like with Jordan Peele taking Dev Patel's movie and helping him distribute it to theaters. I think that there is, like in Christopher Nolan wanting to have stuff in theaters, like you see people wanting to preserve that, and creating this next avenue for arts in film in the next 10 years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting time to be alive.
It is for many reasons, but
For many
definitely in the
reasons,
film
yeah.
world.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but looking back to the present now, um,
Mm-hmm.
we always like to talk about what we've been watching recently.
Yeah.
This is also why it's like such an exciting time. It's like there's nothing really out in theaters right now. Like there's like
It's a
no
There's some,
weird,
there's
there's some
some
yeah,
stuff.
stuff, but
Yeah,
it's
there's
like
nothing
stuff
major.
came out already, nothing big enough to. I think the Bob Marley movie is actually doing quite good. I haven't
yeah,
seen it yet.
I saw
Um,
it yesterday. Yeah.
okay. I mean, yeah, we just talked about what we've been watching recently. Gene, do you want
yeah,
to talk about it?
Yeah, no, it was fine. I mean, saw it on the lot in the afternoon, so it was cool. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like it's not like a bad movie, but like the like kind of like I guess for some like music biopics, I always think of like Dewey Cox, where it's just kind of like never leaves your head after like watching that. Like, but it's like I don't know, it's more feels like at least it's more meaningful or like kind of like it cares more than let's say like something like Bohemian Rhapsody, where they're just
yeah,
like making shit up, like just making up entire like parts of that guy or Freddie Mercury's life that just didn't happen, you
yeah.
know? So it's like at least it's not that. It's just kind of like, yeah, you know, it's nice. It's a nice movie. I guess it's like, you know, learn more about his life or who he was, you know. It's
Yeah, I've heard Bensley King of Deer is like very
mhm.
good in it,
He's
and
good in it,
Tiana
yeah.
Taylor's in it, and I love her. She's fantastic, and
Hmm.
I think it's just like there has been such a high bar for biopics in the
Hmm.
last couple of years. It's like
Yeah.
you either have to like hit that high bar or you kind of fall a little short, I think.
Yeah.
And it seems
Yeah.
like there might not have been as much creativity in this biopic as other ones have.
Right. Yeah. It's a little,
So that's kind of
yeah.
what happens sometimes. But I'm, glad the story is getting told and people are
Hmm.
interested in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot that actor was Bob Marley because he disappears into that role. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
he was in the Barbie movie. He's one
Yes,
of the
he's one
Yeah.
of the best
Kens.
parts of the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
He's very solidly good and like you could just see him.
He was
He's
in
just gonna make his way through and be
yeah,
successful.
Secret Invasion. People
That
think
doesn't count.
that doesn't
That's not
count.
real.
And then
That doesn't exist. I'm sorry.
yeah, no. He's the go-to Obama too. I think he played Obama recently.
Oh yes, I think he did in that movie. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was called. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Obama. So yeah. It was a good Obama, but yeah, no, he's great. So yeah, I guess yeah, I would recommend that movie if you're a Bob Marley fan. I don't know. There's not too much I could say more about it, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
All right, Lexi, what have you been watching recently?
I'm watching all kinds of things. I've been kind of I'm trying to be good about Letterboxd,
Mm.
and trying to remember to log
Sorry.
my stuff.
Always log, yeah.
I was not good at it for a long time. I'm trying to be good. Like for new stuff, old stuff that I've seen like a ton of
Right.
times. Like I watched like some 90s comedy the last couple days because I've been deep cleaning my house, so it's like
Hmm.
good to have on in the background. But the uh things I've been watching, like I saw Under the Skin
Mm.
recently because I was like, I should watch some of his stuff, Jonathan Glazer, because I
Yeah.
really haven't seen anything. I
Hmm.
really don't know if I can physically handle watching Zone of Interest,
Zone
but
of
I'm like,
interest.
I want to watch more of his stuff. And so I saw Under
Yeah.
the Skin was on HBO, and then his stuff is on Criterion. So I'm gonna try and watch Birth sometime in the next week
Yeah.
or two.
Both the birth is good. I was gonna say I saw
Yeah,
Zone of Interest
yeah,
last week. And it's a good movie, but
yeah,
it's a very difficult watch because it's just
yes,
like yeah, the subject matter and then just kind of like they, you know, like like it's heavy, but it's like it's more like because it's like they don't show anything and it's just
yeah,
there, you know, leaving it to your like imagination. So
yeah,
it's yeah, it's hard to watch. Yeah. So, you
yeah,
know.
absolutely. So yeah, so I've been trying to watch that, and then I watched Madam Web, of course.
Oh, good. Yeah, I watched it too.
We were just talking about it before recording, and I was like jokingly like, "Oh, we can ask our guest about it too." But I
Hmm.
now we can.
Have you guys both seen it?
I
I'm going
saw it.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Researching spiders in the Amazon.
I
Yeah.
can't believe they didn't have that line of the movie, of
I was
course.
yeah,
Like this
I was
bananas.
mad too. Do you feel like they I don't know like for Sony like because people are like they know what they're doing in like making these kind of like memeable sort
Uh-huh.
of like movies, but like I can't
I don't
yeah, I
agree.
can't see
I agree
them.
with Eugene. I don't agree with whoever said that.
But yeah, I
I
can't
think
see
you
them being
can't
that
like
smart.
intentionally make something like that. I just
Yeah.
feel like it has to be kind of a weird thing on its own for people to appreciate. Like you can't like be like, oh, that's gonna become a meme, so let's put it in. No, that's
Right,
not how it
yeah.
works.
They're not that smart.
No.
Yeah. It's like The Room almost, you know, it just
Yes,
has to be that bad.
it just has to be the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's like not as awful as everyone is making out to be, but I
Right.
don't think it's like the best thing
Good, yeah.
ever either.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like the script is nonsensical and the
Uh-huh.
villain was not good. But
Mm-hmm.
I just think I also think it was like a very weird choice to make it about like the buildup of this team, but not actually make it about them.
Yeah,
Like
they're
it's like a prequel to a prequel almost. It was
mm-hmm.
very odd. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I just didn't think it was that bad. Like I just like okay, this is another movie that they made. You know?
Yeah, because it's so weird because it's like it's set in 2003
Yeah.
and it's like you wouldn't know that unless they kept panning to like Blockbuster or like what they did some like other pans or they're like they mentioned TiVo
Yes.
or like
There was something else.
Dakota Johnson goes like I'm gonna watch American Idol tonight.
Yes.
They do that. It's so like
And I really don't think she's that bad of what people are saying. Like I don't
no,
think
yeah.
anyone is really that bad except for the
No,
villain.
the
Like I feel
villain,
like
yeah.
they're all
He
just doing their
keeps
thing.
yeah, he has like the way he talks, the guy that plays Ezekiel Sims, like an
Uh-huh.
actual Spider-Man character, is like he talks like such a weird like
I think
villain.
they ADR his
The AD
entire
I had
performance.
yeah,
heard they'd ADR'd
Yes.
him like
yeah.
all
Yes.
He
Gina
does
Carano and Haywire.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's
That's like
ADR'd.
insane.
Yeah, but it's like the way he talks too, it's like not even that it's ADR, just like talks like I'm trying to think of like I forget like what villain, but he's going for that sort of performance. It's like what's his name? Oh, he reminds me of like the way he does it is like Jeff Bridges and Iron Man, where he's like build
Oh,
this with a box of
okay.
scraps,
That's
and it's like
so
that's his whole
funny.
thing. It's just such a like an odd movie, or it's like stuff where it's like they have I guess spoilers, but it's like the birth of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and it's like they cut before they say like what are you gonna name him? It's like
I did not hear I realized that until someone mentioned it on a podcast that I listened to. I was like, oh, I absolutely missed the fact that like Adam Scott's name's Ben
yeah,
and
yeah.
and like all of that stuff. It is like so weird to have Emma Roberts and Zoja Mamet
Oh
like weirdly pop up in this movie. I was like, what's
yeah,
going on?
it's like yeah, I guess like also knowing she's like not a very nice person
Yeah.
doesn't make her like a good choice for like Spider-Man's mom. You know? Yeah.
But that does make Scream 4 prophetic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Masterpiece. Everyone watch Scream
Yeah.
4.
I know. But yeah, it's just it's just like it's just such a weird, odd movie because it's like a superhero movie, but it's not because it's like they're only superheroes in the future.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of like chase movie, but then it's not. It's like it's
Yeah,
kind of
they're
like
just like running the whole time.
yeah,
I think it's just gonna end up becoming like a weird cult, like
yeah,
I would say
showgirls
cult,
type of
but
thing.
it's
Yeah.
like going to end up being like the people are saying that like Aquaman is kind of the Aquaman 2 is like the
Hmm.
pinnacle, but I feel
Mhm.
like this is like really like
Yeah.
what people are gonna
Uh-huh.
dissect when they examine the end of
Comic
this.
book movies. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. Yeah, because it's so much like studio notes, but then it's like
Yes.
it reminds me of that email that leak from all the Sony stuff where it's like they want a Aunt May spinoff, and it's like all their like weird sort of like hyperfixations, like Amy
Absolutely.
Pascal. She's like we need like a girl superhero movie because we need to hit this market in like quarter 2, and it's like it's so bad. It's just like I don't know, like it's not like I felt like I wasted my time because it was just like it's funny, like in like some of the
It's
stuff that
like weirdly funny and like
hmm
weird beats. I just feel like I would love to watch like a commentary of someone reading all the emails back and forth to
oh
each
yeah,
other
yeah.
about like how they made these choices
hmm
in the movie.
some
Because I
odd
feel like
ones.
that would be like amazing.
hmm yeah, it's
Well,
just
Gene, you
yeah.
mentioned the email stuff from a while
hmm
back, and
Yeah.
hmm
I'm pretty sure this was a project on the email, not specifically Madam Web.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if everyone remembers, there was like, oh, we got Drew
Yeah.
Goddard and Sinister Six. We're
hmm
talking Tom Hardy as Sandman, yada
hmm
yada. There's that amazing like, oh, you guys have Doctor Strange email. We got fucking skyscraper Tom Hardy, and you're like, what are these people on? I would have seen that movie, by
yeah.
the way. There was a Spider-Man project that was specifically about like a team of Spider Women. They referred to it as like the glass ceiling, which is,
Uh-huh.
an actual statement about like glass ceilings for women in
Yeah.
industries and stuff like that. But Amy Pascal was like pitching really hard for this like Spider Woman team project.
hmm
There was talks of it maybe being a Spider-Verse spinoff at one point,
hmm
and then there was like live action stuff. We'll try to do like we're not gonna do Sinister Six yet. We're gonna try this instead,
Yeah.
and I think this is what that project became. I That is my just complete theory. There's no knowledge on my behalf of this. It's just
hmm
like it's just what I'm
I mean,
thinking
that
of.
makes total sense. I also, it's so funny that her name is Madam Web, even though she's
uh
like 30.
right, yeah, it's like
Funniest
yeah,
choices ever. I don't know, but we digress. But like,
right,
whatever.
No,
yeah,
I
it's like
mean, well, Gene, like as nerds who didn't go out until we were like 25 years old,
mhm.
um, I think we're both in agreement that Madam Web kind of like is not an interesting character. I don't
uh
like her in the Spider-Man mythos.
yeah,
Huh.
she's
I
just
don't
like
like the
yeah,
multiverse web of fate stuff.
uh-huh, well
Um,
she's just like kind of like a she's just kind of like a I don't know, like a plot device most of the time for warning Spider-Man of things. At least in the animated series, is just kind of like where I know her more from. It's just
mhm.
she just like warns him about like,
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna happen. She's more like a psychic, I
Yeah.
would say, as opposed to like multiverse. But like, yeah, she's just like kind of like, kind of around and like like a supporting character in like a very like she's not even that big of a part of the universe.
No, she's not, but I still don't think she's that interesting.
Yeah,
You know
she's
what I
just like
mean? Like,
not
Yeah.
yeah, she's not interesting
I mean, she
and
was like a
yeah.
whole plot device in this movie to set up these like three characters who
Right.
I guess they're
Yeah.
going to be like the next era. It's just like, but how do they become spider people? I like this is
Yeah,
the
they
question that is
yeah.
not answered in this movie. I'm like, they should
No.
have at least included also the part where these three girls become spider people because
Right. They're just in the future they do.
I'm like, oh great,
They go to the
something.
spiders in the Amazon, the spider people.
because
Ah, okay.
they're trying to do Terminator with this,
No, you
right?
know what?
That
I was kind of, I was thinking like they're trying to do Hey Arnold, where Hey Arnold, the parents go to the like green-eyed people in the Amazon to like seek
oh
some like sort of
wow.
cure. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of Hey Arnold analogies, I think.
That is so funny. Oh
If
my
anyone watched Hey
gosh.
Arnold, yeah.
Yes, but I don't think I ever got to that part, or I don't remember that part.
Oh yeah,
But
it was
that is
deep in the
hilarious.
deep in the Hey Arnold lore. Because it's like his parents disappeared in the Amazon looking for because they were like explorers
I
looking
do
for
remember
Oh,
that.
yeah, they're
Yeah. And
looking
then
for
like
like a cure.
the
interesting.
end of the original run of the show, I remember is him finding the map, right? And he runs to his
Yeah,
grandma and grandpa. I remember that. I haven't thought
yeah. And
about
then
that
they
in
they
so
did
Wow.
long.
they did like a movie to like wrap it all up, but like yeah.
Huh. Okay,
Okay.
maybe I need to rewatch Harold. It's a
It's
great
actually
show.
yeah, it's a good show. Like of all like the kids sort of things, like it has a lot of like good messages or like deep
Yeah.
storylines about like you know acceptance or like outcasts or like you know rich and poor. It's very
Yeah, and he had a
yeah,
football for a head.
yeah. He was in
That
the
was
Super
not.
Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick
Look,
Stewart throws him.
look, those commercials, that was the best one by like a country mile. And they were obviously not in the same space because half of them are like animated characters anyways.
Yep.
Right.
But if you have all these like brands and stuff, it reminds me of like when Cartoon Network would do those in between the shows commercials and be
Bumpers,
Oh
like
yeah.
Johnny
yes.
Bravo and Samurai Jack at like washing clothes together. And they're
Yeah.
like, someone said they're
Those were
cruising, which
great.
is just like
Yeah.
hysterical.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, have fun with that at least,
Yeah.
don't just promote me.
Yeah.
Shit.
But yeah, from Adam Webb, it just reminded me of like all the Hey Arnold like Amazon stuff for some reason. Yeah. Green-eyed people of the spider tribe or something. So
Well,
weird.
the good news is they're gonna keep making movies like this because they need to keep the Spider-Man movie right. So they're gonna
Yeah,
keep
for
pumping
sure.
Yeah.
these babies out.
That's
It's
something
like
else I thought about too. I was like, did they like have to make this movie in order to keep the rights? Because that's such like
probably,
a
yeah.
well-known like fact that somebody just like has to keep making them.
Right.
Mhm.
Though, they have like a lot of characters and side characters from Spider-Man because
Yeah.
it's like, they need that Craven's gonna come out at some point this year.
Yes, Craven and Venom 3. I
Venom
need to
3.
I need to see Venom 2. I haven't seen Venom 2,
It's
but
fairly good.
I
Yeah.
actually
that's
think
what I've
Venom 2
heard.
is kind of
I've
fun.
heard they're fun.
I
I've
like the
seen
second
Venom,
one.
but I saw it when I was like kind of drinking, so I don't really remember a
Mm.
ton of it.
No, that's the way to do that. That's the way to watch Venom. I had a couple drinks and then a Monster Energy drink, and I was like, all right, I'm in my gamer era.
There you
And then I was like,
go.
yeah, I had a good time watching Venom. That's the only time I've ever watched Venom all the way through.
Yeah.
That was that.
There is a place
Yeah.
for these movies.
Yeah, and then the rest of these they're just gonna be shuffling them around.
Yeah.
And I know exactly how to solve Sony's problem. I know exactly how to make an actual Spider-Man universe work, but they're not paying me, so I can't tell them.
Yes, don't tell them.
No, no. I need to survive. We could wrap up right now. I guess I'll mention really quick. It's funny, like I always used to try to watch like movies as often as possible, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to choose.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like so busy all the time. I'm like, I'll throw something on, and then I'll watch
Yeah.
like a movie like a day now, even though
Yeah.
I feel like I have less time than ever before. So this week I watched like the hell did I watch? I watched American Psycho on the big screen.
Oh.
The first time watching it on the big screen, and I've always like loved that movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like rewatching it now. I was like, oh, this is probably a masterpiece.
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched Dog Day Afternoon
Oh, I've
on
never
a
seen
friend's
that.
projector screen, which
I
was
need to see that.
it's also a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And one of the sweatiest movies ever made. Yeah, shout out Sidney Lumet, the boy, R.I.P. King,
Yes.
ally sometimes, and questionable some other times, but very, very interesting filmmaker.
Weren't they all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. He was born in like the 1800s or whatever. I'm gonna
Right.
give him the pass.
Sure.
Yeah, and then the hell did I just start? Oh, I'm watching Abbott. I think everyone watches Abbott Elementary now, basically.
Oh,
Rightfully
yes.
so. It's delightful and
Yes.
cracks me the hell up. But yeah, I got no hot takes to drop or anything else. You guys covered Madam Web. I'll tweet about it when I see it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll have thoughts. On that note, is there anything else you want to highlight or hype up? Lexi, you got the next season of the podcast.
Yes, it'll probably be starting or dropping at the end of March. So, like, yeah, starting the recording and this process in the next couple weeks, and then we'll be dropping them from there.
Cool.
Awesome. Links down to your Twitter account and the show's Twitter account and the Apple podcast down below. Gene, anything you want to promote?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Gene has a Twitter account too. It's in the description. Don't worry.
Yeah,
our stuff's in the description.
Yeah, that's all.
I will. No, you're good. You're good. People, if they watch the show, they follow us. That's just how it goes. And you could look forward to the next season of the failed award contenders retrospectives after this. When this episode goes up, at least one episode will be up on the Patreon. So go check that out. Failed award contender season 3. Failed Blockbuster season 4 later in the summer. Looking forward to that too. We're doing a little spin on that, and one little mini retrospective in between both of these seasons. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for watching.
Well, thank you guys for having me on.
If you didn't like this episode, like, subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. And thank you, Lexi, so much for joining us.
Thank
I hope
you,
we
guys.
didn't keep you too long.
No, not at all.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime. Looking forward to
Yeah,
that
of course.
podcast. And your tweets are always a delight to come across in
Oh,
the
thank
timeline.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We have been professionally unprofessional.